I need one. Oh, it's okay. A little quiet and just clean up and they're gonna die. That rooster's making funny sound. So hi, welcome to 100,000 Poets and Musicians for Change, a truly global event. On this day, in over 100 countries all over the world, poets are gathering to read their poems and musicians are playing their songs. So it's a pretty exciting thing to have that happening all over the world simultaneously. I'm Elizabeth MacDuffie. I put this shindig together. I edit this, Meat for Tea, the Valley Review. It's the latest issue. They've got it at the newsstand here if you're curious. And I have a couple of poems to read you. First of all, it's a very important rock star and protest poet's birthday today. Does anyone know who that is? Any guesses? It's Tuli Kupferberg's birthday. He was with the Fugs, hung out with Allen Ginsberg a lot, and in his honor, I'm going to start off by just quickly reading Kill for Peace. Kill, kill, kill for peace, near or middle or very far east, far or near or very middle east, kill, kill, kill for peace. And that was Tuli Kupferberg. Moving on. This one's called Nesting. I'm building a nest to call my home out of mussel shells and seagull bones. I'm building this home behind a dune. I'm sure back here there'll be plenty of room and shelter from sea breezes and tides. A lining of feathers keeps it warm inside. My children have all grown, and so this home is my very own. There's only room for me in my avian home by the sea. So here I'll live out my days till I'm an ancient crone. I'll wander the shores by the light of day, searching and digging till I find the buried seal hide I know is mine. Then one day, when I'm withered and frail, I'll slip the hide on and zip it right up and slide into the sea, where my sulky sisters have been awaiting me. Next one is Acid, Blood, and Crab Apples. In a flurry of acid, blood, and crab apples, their love affair began as red and stormy as that proverbial sky that sailors dread in the morning. And yet it was night, and their friends were pelting their naked teenage bodies with crab apples culled from a barrel kept in the spare room by the mother of the boy who'd invited her to this party, only to have his handsome friend Dan push her, the girl he'd had designs on, against the wall and kiss her till she couldn't breathe and didn't care who saw or who got mad or who got hurt. And that boy, whose mother's crab apples were stored in her spare room, picked up his apple and aimed and threw hard. The next one is called Socks. I'm looking at my feet and my daughter's socks just now as if somewhere within the red toes and heels and pale blue body of the socks, and is that part of the sock called a body? Somewhere in the knitting between these colors in the borders lies, if only I look long enough and hard enough, a poem. Or even if not a poem, an idea or a word or a kernel. And I look and look at my feet in these socks I borrowed from my 16-year-old because she's the only one who still owns matching socks. Because I buy them for her, then I buy some for me. And the whole mess often just ends up in her drawer. So I just take my socks from her drawer. And sometimes they're hers, and sometimes they're mine, and no one cares. We don't care. Do you even care? And for that matter, why am I telling you this? When I was simply going to tell you that sometimes, if you stare at your feet long enough, you'll get an idea for a poem. But sometimes, no matter how long you stare at your socks or someone else's socks, you won't get a poem. You'll have had a chance to meditate on socks. And really, how often do you get one of those? Thank you. Excuse me, fumbling with pages. This one is called Inevitably. Based on a dream I had. We had a baby, you and I. Unplanned, unexpected, yet there he was. Black curls, brown eyes, chubby, beautiful. We kept him in a fish tank, the baby. He liked it there in the water. We didn't want to parent a small new life, but he was too cute to get rid of. So there he lived, like a pet, only coming out of the water to nurse at my breast. One day he climbed right out of the tank. He was getting bigger. He climbed out and crawled all around and, inevitably, became our son. Thank you. I have one last poem. This one's called Prozac for Van Gogh. And for you form geeks, it's a pontoon. If poor Vincent were alive today, he'd not be allowed to suffer. His moods would be adjusted till he felt okay. His nerves would be given a buffer. He'd not be allowed to suffer. No tormented visions for him. His nerves would be given a buffer. He'd no longer be subject to whim. No tormented visions for him, for he would take Prozac or Paxil. He'd no longer be subject to whim. He'd busy himself with the factual. For he would take Prozac or Paxil. His serotonin levels would rise. He'd busy himself with the factual. About economics and industry he would surmise. His serotonin levels would rise. His interest in paintings decrease. About economics and industry he would surmise, as he succumbed to chemical peace. His interest in painting decrease. No money in that, after all, as he succumbs to chemical peace and tinkers with funds mutual. No money in that, after all, and the life of a painter is trying, and tinkered with funds mutual. No more sobbing and crying, and the life of a painter is trying. This much is perfectly clear. No more sobbing and crying, no amputating an ear. Thank you. And that is it for me. Is Patrick in the house? Well, then next up is going to be Stephanie Baird as soon as I locate her.